Exertional heat illness, or heat stroke, can be a serious risk for both athletes and workers in hot conditions, making rapid medical diagnosis and treatment critical. An important requirement for this is accurate temperature monitoring. In today's episode, we'll take a look at whether commonly available and simple measures, many of which we use at home, can replace the gold standard of measuring rectal temperature during an American football heat stress simulation. American football is a sport that has seen a steady number of exertional heat stroke, or EHS, and heat-related deaths throughout the decades. Some of the contributing factors includes the protective clothing and helmet, which covers much of the body, adds weight, and reduces the body's ability to get rid of excess heat. Another factor is that preseason takes place during the heat of summer, when athletes are least fit and least prepared for exercise in the heat. Beyond very high body temperatures, another major feature of EHS is central nervous system impairment, like altered gait or seizures, as the body is literally cooking inside. The best medical treatment is to immerse the victim in the cold water to reduce body temperature as rapidly as possible. The importance of rapid cooling can be seen in a 1997 study looking at survival rates of rats heated to different temperatures through either passive heating or exercise. The higher the body temperature and the longer that body temperature was high, the lower the survival rate. An important requirement for diagnosing and treating EHS is having an accurate measure of deep core body temperature. Without this, you may not end up properly diagnosing EHS to begin with, and you may cool the victim either too little or too much. While invasive, logistically harder, and having privacy issues, the gold standard is to measure rectal temperature. As a result, there is a desire for a less invasive and easier to obtain measure. Many of these we've likely used at home, including measuring at the mouth, armpit, forehead, and ear. While these are easier to obtain, do they accurately replicate rectal temperature? A 2021 study looked at comparing these other sites to rectal temperature during a lab simulation of heat stress and cooling while wearing football gear and helmet. Participants rested while standing for 10 minutes in a 39 degrees Celsius, 39% relative humidity chamber. Then repeated 5-minute cycles of fast and moderate treadmill walking until the rectal temperature reached 39.7 to 39.8 degrees Celsius, which is quite hot and near the upper ethics limit for heat research. Then they took off the football gear and helmet and were immersed to the neck in 10 degrees Celsius water until all 5 temperature sites read less than 38 degrees Celsius. The last phase was getting out of the water with a final 15-minute recovery period. This allowed the researchers to look at rest, exercise, cooling, and recovery. This is a graph of all 5 temperature measurements throughout the 4 test phases, with rectal temperature highlighted in dark red. What we can see is that all 4 other measures had unacceptable levels of inaccuracy, which was defined as 0.27 degrees Celsius away from rectal temperature. It wasn't just inaccuracy that was the problem, but most of the sites both overestimated and underestimated temperature during different test phases. This is much worse than if a measure was just consistently 0.3 degrees Celsius higher at all times, because a consistent error is still predictable and can be adjusted for. Instead, because of the overestimation and sometimes underestimation, it becomes impossible to trust these other measures. Worst of all was armpit temperature, which dropped off to unrealistic values during cooling. The big take-home message from this video should be that rapid treatment of EHS is critical for survival, and that the ideal treatment is cold water immersion. And for accurate temperature measurement, there is currently no replacement for rectal temperature. Unfortunately, This particular study did not test the emerging technology of temperature pills that can be ingested and send out gut temperature via radio signals to a monitor or app, as this combination may be the best of achieving both accuracy and ease of measure for athletes and also for workers. I hope that you've enjoyed this insight into the challenges of heat stress management in the real world. I'm Professor Stephen Chung, and I run the Environmental Ergonomics Lab at Brock University in Canada. We post new videos on different topics in environmental physiology every Wednesday. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.